What conspiracy theory do you believe in the most? I think some memes are started by businesses as a form of free advertising. The recent Duolingo memes got me thinking more about it. Duolingo wasn't a small app at the time, but it became a lot more popular after the fact. There have been other memes revolving around a particular product brand as well that make me think this is happening on a strategic level beyond some kid thinking it'd be hella funny to do this or that. I believe that the company 23andMe will sell our information to insurance companies and medical companies in the future. Like the CEO was Anne Wojcicki, married to Google co-founder Sergey Brin. Edit. Anna Wojcicki and Sergey Brin are in fact not married. All those DNA ancestor sites are giving the government your DNA for their record. I believe that the government probably makes some conspiracy theories to try to make questioning the government seem somewhat crazy. Disney released Frozen so that it would be the top result when searching Disney Frozen, and not anything about Walt's head being cryogenically frozen in the Disney theme park. I don't know how likely that is, on either count actually. Coca-Cola tested HFCS in place of sugar and found that while the taste was similar, people could tell the difference. They brought out new Coke to cleanse people's palates and waited until as much of the original formula products had been sold as they could. Then they cancelled new Coke and brought back Coke Classic, which was the HCFS version, and people didn't have any original stuff left to compare it to. The only reason they made new Coke was to act as a buffer so people wouldn't notice the change in ingredients. Not really one single conspiracy theory, but I do feel like seemingly, quite often if a big political scandal is breaking, something tends to happen that dominates the news cycle for a little bit. A shooting, celebrity controversy, something. Not so much a conspiracy theory as a little-known fact, because the head of the CIA admitted it, but the USA orchestrated a coup of the Prime Minister of Australia in 1975. Marshmello doesn't actually produce his own music. My biggest piece of evidence is the creator arcade videos. He speaks and navigates Ableton like someone with only a basic knowledge of music production. He does everything number by number. Producers don't do that. You can't just instantly know that sound needs a boost of exactly 1 decibel at exactly 1.2 kHz without even listening to the sound first. He randomly pauses every now and then, presumably to be fed lines, and he seems to lack even a basic understanding of music theory, recreating MIDI by randomly clicking in notes with no regard for the key of the song. Someone with the level of skill he demonstrates should not be capable of making radio quality hits. My dog is still living on a farm somewhere, 47 years later. The recommended amount to use in laundry detergent cups are 30% higher than necessary. Edit. Thank you stranger for the silver. My very first. I would say mattress firm, but that shit is so 2018. Too related to the US military. And NBSP, the US government pushed high school football on kids to get them in shape during the Cold War. And NBSP, the US government doesn't have free tuition for colleges due to many members of the military joining specifically to get college paid for. It would massively decrease the enlisted count. That people give themselves Reddit gold to make their comment post seem more important. Area 51 is just a front that was allowed to become popular in the public eye, but actually has nothing of value. Not saying aliens in bases exist, just saying Area 51 is allowed to be the popular secret base thing to cover up actual secrets. I must correct my previous statement, Camp David is a retreat, not an emergency location. However, that could also be a front. Also not downplaying what the airmen at 51 do, just saying that what they do now is not likely as top secret as people are led to believe. Michael Bay is a genius auteur who makes shitty movies on purpose. It's like his own little societal experiment where he sees how shitty he can make a movie that still makes money, all while making fun of his audience for his own personal amusement. Something fucking weird is happening with YouTube Kids or Elsagate. I always post the same one. Marijuana legalization is being pushed by Big Pharma. Once it's legalized, they will then push for restrictive regulations in the interest of public safety that will force shutdowns of consumer or small grow operations. Those are only allowed now to foster positive sentiment towards legalization. So then it's legal and they have a monopoly. There's a recent increase in realistic space colonization movies to garner interest in space exploration because some people at the top know it's needed. JFK being shot by the intelligence services. Josh from work stole my sandwich from the fridge, even though he was off that day. The government was behind Throwback Thursdays in order to get people upload pictures they never would have had access to and help them improve age progression face recognition algorithms. That our phones are always recording, at least audio, to target advertising of course, but more secret agent things as well. My mother-in-law talking at dinner about how hard it is to train for a marathon now that she is over the age of 55. I get ads all over Reddit, Google whatever that read over 50 and a runner. Check out this random product. Within 4 hours of the conversation. I know there was a bunch of stuff about this, but I think every company denied it. Could be wrong though. That Avril Lavigne died in the mid-2000s and her record label hired someone who looked like her to take over her career. Planned obsolescence, if it's still a conspiracy theory. Why does my phone suddenly develop unseen issues when the new one is released? It's not a coincidence. And who even asked for these tech companies to release a new phone every year? We live in a time where technology is now growing at a rather slower pace compared to the 2000s when there was rapid innovation. It's not like my current phone is getting crappier in 1 year, but wait, it is. Applies to phones, tablets, smartwatches, basically most rather expensive, internet-connected devices receiving updates. Male birth control advancements are being squashed by the pharma companies who produce the female contraceptive pill because of all the money the pill generates, despite it causing so many unsavory side effects. Example, Vasalgel. A non-invasive treatment for men that mimic a vasectomy but is completely reversible. It's been around since 2010 but can't get funding. I think it's because it is a once-off, maybe more than once depending on number of kids you want, treatment and reversal and not a daily dose, so it is not a constant income. Why fund something that won't give you a steady stream of money, even if it means a healthier society? You guys remember the end of the world theory that the rapture would happen on May 21, 2011? Macho Man Randy Savage died on May 20, 2011. Basically, Macho Man Randy Savage died to save humanity, shouldering all of our sins. All the UFO sightings throughout history are just humans from the future on a time-traveling safari meant to observe how we were in the past. They are supposed to keep out of sight, but because of human mechanical errors, there have been hiccups with their cloaking which have resulted in being seen. That's why there have always been so many reports of them throughout history, but there has never been an attack. It's just us. Also, the reason why we don't see many examples of UFOs now, even through pretty much everyone has a camera, is because people are not that interested in this time period, since we already document aspects of human life all the time. Moon's haunted and NASA is covering it up. KFC has been intentionally making their biscuits drier to sell more drinks. PETA is ran by the meat industry to delegitimize vegetarianism, cutting back on meat. The art world is basically a low-key way for rich people and companies to launder money, which is why the stupidest, most out-of paintings randomly go for hundreds of millions of dollars. I've posted this one before, but I think that there are high-level rings of pedophiles and sexual predators specifically, so that those above them can keep them under control. We know that there are kingmakers. While the big actors, musicians, etc. today are certainly talented, there are plenty of B and C-listers who could be just as big if only they had the backing of a big publisher like Disney, Paramount, etc. Thing is, making a king is expensive. You have to spend a lot of time and money getting the public to care about them before they start to pay you back, and once they're big they don't technically need you anymore. So the kingmakers are naturally going to look for people who are retainable to ensure they get their investment back. They have to. For every king they make dozens of duds. It's an expensive process. Sometimes that's as simple as them being naive. A good legal contract can lock them in for a long time, and often the only way out is to destroy your value, so the kingmaker stops caring. Look at Britney Spears' meltdown for example, but if you can't get that, then blackmail works just as well. I suspect that for a long time homosexuality was the go-to black mark. That's why it seemed like for so long that the big names were always having gay scandals and the like. It was easy to stage, easy to feed them their vice of choice when they were good, and not illegal, just career suicide, so it was low risk high reward. But of course the downside to making a king is that he gets a good deal of power too, and eventually public opinion shifted and it became okay to be gay. Could still destroy some careers. The teen heartthrob loses a lot of his appeal when it turns out he's more interested in his very small male fanbase, but hardly enough to keep them from going solo or jumping to another label. So now they moved on to more shocking and illegal appetites. Harder to spot vulnerable marks and tougher to get them their vice of choice, but if it was easy to make a king everybody would be doing it. Someone who abuses women or children isn't about to cross their handler, they shut up and take their cut. After all, they're still being handsomely rewarded, just not as much as they could be making if they didn't have a publisher leeching out the lion's share of their profits. I don't think this is a huge coordinated conspiracy, mind you. I think that quite a few successful talent managers have discovered that sexual predators are surprisingly easy to manage if you're willing to clean up their messes for them, and that when you're talking about tens of millions of dollars, you can suddenly afford high-powered lawyers and firemen who neither ask nor answer questions. But between predators gaining power and promoting like-minded monsters and managers seeking out predators because they're easy to keep on contract, I think it explains a bit of why there always seems to be at least a few sexual assault scandals going on in movies and music at any given time. The Earth is a zoo created by aliens and UFOs or visitors. The military shot down United Airlines 93 over Pennsylvania on 9/11. They knew it was hijacked and on its way to Washington, D.C., and scrambled jets were right next to it when it went down. Plus several witnesses saw an explosion in the sky before it crashed. Totally justified given everything happening that day, but the government would never want to admit it shot down a commercial aircraft full of innocent Americans over America. There is intelligent life out there, it's just that we're too primitive for any prominent contact with aliens. Edit. Apparently, this is not a conspiracy theory according to half the comments on this. I guess I should have pointed out that aliens choose to not come to Earth because we are lacking in intelligence and technology, and that the conspiracy is that we know this for whatever reason, but plead ignorance in suggesting there is life out there. My dad going to the store. That our government had a hand in assassinating JFK. That the US government has staged attacks to justify a war. That Jar Jar was meant to be the top Sith Lord in the prequels, but the idea was scrapped after seeing the fan reaction to him. That's why Count Dooku is just kinda dropped into Attack of the Clones, as though he was there the whole time. The moon landing never happened. It's still in the sky, you can't say the moon landed if it's still up there. That a lot of the challenges, like the 10-year challenge, are orchestrated by big tech companies in order to gather data to develop AI. Man, I really hope we are in a simulation. Every religion's heaven sounds like a real drag, but I don't want everything to just end. Ideally, one day you'll die, then just wake up in a room, go get a snack or something, then load up another life and go for another spin. Repeat millions or billions of times. That the US government was directly involved in the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Edit. Some people are saying that it's been outright stated as fact. I can't speak to this. I genuinely believe it's true. However, fact or not, you get the stink eye for saying this in a lot of white circles. Marilyn Monroe was absolutely killed by the government. That in very ancient times people were gigantic and shrunk with the ages. And that those giants built mysterious structures such as Stonehenge. No real reason to believe it, I just like it. That Hitler actually escaped to Argentina instead of killing himself in a bunker. Burke Ramsey killed his sister John Bennett. Alex Jones exists to make people who think critically of the government look bad. The concept of human civilization being far older than we are being told. JFK's assassination was fishy as fuck, and I'd be more surprised to learn that it was not a conspiracy of some kind. Federal law enforcement bodies are working with the public and private prison industries to flood the streets with heroin and fentanyl because they see the impending mass legalization of marijuana and can't risk that many empty cells. A massive uptick in street opioid use in the past few years, combined with aggressive policies targeting legitimate pain patients and cutting them off of their medications, as well as restricting doctors' abilities to treat more people with things like Suboxone. It's not big pharma. Why would they allow their most popular and abusable medications to be all but banned if they're as big and powerful as everyone thinks? It's not like they're hawking new treatment drugs, and the government is working hard to ban natural alternatives like kratom on top of it. To me, it all points to a concentrated effort to increase drug-related offenses to keep fines and court fees rolling in and cells filled after weed is legal. Sort by controversial. Global warming was deliberate. The lizard people want to warm the planet up so it's more comfortable for them. That the government has way more advanced technology than is available to the general public. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie looked bad on purpose to get attention and media coverage. They knew what they were doing. Also, a long time ago when the design leaked, I bet that it was released on purpose to get going talking about it and get attention too. I don't care about Sonic or that movie, and I'm not going to watch it anyway. Never mind, I realized that I was wrong. XD. Nothing happens at Area 51. It's a chunk of highly protected land with nothing on it. Like, if you were gonna do shady government things, would you do it in the place where everyone knows you're doing something? Area 51 is just a cover-up for a base elsewhere in the country. There was a conspiracy theory that the Nazi angel of death, Joseph Mengele, that did work on twins fled to Brazil and then continued his experiments there. Not sure if it's a conspiracy theory per se, but the Las Vegas shooting and the way it was presented to the public by law enforcement and the media was super fishy. There's just a few too many coincidences and convenient gaps in information. The security guard disappearing and then magically reappearing for one controlled interview with an obvious handler sitting right by his side. The house getting broken into and the hard drives going missing. The girlfriend who disappeared and then reappeared and then disappeared again, who had apparently listed the FBI as a previous place of employment on a resume. The speed with which it just disappeared from the news cycle was really crazy too, considering it was the deadliest mass shooting in US history. Especially when you consider how much the next three deadliest stuck around in the news cycle: Pulse, VI Tech, Sandy Hook. There's something that is critically important to the story that is being intentionally withheld. Michael Jordan didn't decide to step away from the NBA to play baseball to honor his dad or anything like that. He got caught gambling, and David Stern couldn't allow the league to lose all credibility with its biggest star being suspended for betting on games. He had him take a couple years off instead of publicly punishing him. That Princess Diana death was orchestrated by Prince Charles. I just can't wrap my head around the idea that this guy has an affair with Camilla and gets caught. Divorce happens, and even during the divorce, and after she is doing absolutely the best, like just killing it still in her duties, mom duties, the gorgeous revenge velvet dress, the entire world adores her. Then all of a sudden she dies in this car accident due to her driver? You know how many countless times she was driven by someone who was trained and hired specifically for the royal family. Then Prince Charles gets married to Camilla and all is right and well again in the public eye the world gets to see. The Titanic and another ship were switched to get insurance payouts. That the Republicans and Democrats running the show truly do not care about beating each other and instead are focused on the illusion of competition, while they just split the power and rotate things every few cycles. All issues are divided in a way that nearly splits the country and keeps us fighting each other.